Welkom terug hier op GROOTplaas. So ons gas saam met ons via Teams vanoggend is Sandile Ngcobo en hy is Openbare Sake en Transformasie Direkteur by Mondi Suid-Afrika. Sandile, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an early morning for me, but what a pleasure to be on your show.
Fantastic. So let's jump straight into it, Sandile. How does South Africa's forestry industry contribute to the sustainable production of paper?
Yeah, Dupi, I think that's an excellent question. I mean, obviously, the forestry industry is quite a large industry in South Africa, and it's so important for us to sustainably manage our plantations throughout the country. So really what we do is that we make sure that our harvesting never really exceeds the annual growth that we have within the forestry industry. There's also a number of practices that we make sure that we are responsibly managing our forests through water stewardship, through ecosystem protection. So it's a variety of things that we're doing, Dupi, including biodiversity conservation. We also have to make sure, Dupi, that from a social perspective, we are adhering to things like BBBEE, which means that we are quite inclusive around our practices and how we involve the communities in which we work with. At Mondi, we are quite proud of a couple of our certifications, and as we talk later on today, I'll tell you all about our FSC certification. I'll tell you all about our ISO compliance, and most excitingly, with the launch of our new Rototrim brand, we're very, very proud to announce our Cradle to Cradle certification, which is something that's new.
So for a lot of South Africans, if you've ever driven down to the coast, you've probably gone through or past one of the plantations, and it's always quite impressive to see these rows and rows of trees being planted. Now, Sandile, when you mentioned the sustainability of something like forestry, what is the annual amount of plants that you need to put back, and how many trees are getting harvested per year?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So for Mondi, maybe in particular, we use well above about 2 million tons a year at our Richards Bay mill. A lot of this of these tons that we're also getting from our small growers. But as I said earlier on, the number of trees that we harvest every year is lower than the amount of trees that we're replanting. Obviously, the annual cycle or the time that it takes to grow trees is anything north of 7 years. So it is quite a long-term game, and sustainability, obviously, and very good planning is top of our thinking, Dupi.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, a 7-year cycle. Is that from the time that you put the plant in the ground until it's ready for harvest, or until you start considering it for harvest?
Until we start considering it for harvest. Obviously, throughout the country, different climates, and we're very blessed to have plantations that we own and manage, and then obviously our small growers as well, both in KZN and some holdings up in Mpumalanga. So depending on the region, the rainfall, trees do grow differently, also depending on the climate that they are placed in. We do try to make sure that our seedlings are best suited for the area in which we put them in. So around about 7 years north, Dupi, is more or less where we're aiming for with our plantations around the country.
So you did mention small-scale timber growers now.
Yes.
What role do they play in supplying raw material for our paper sector?
Yeah, so they're playing a very big role, Dupi, in the paper industry, not only at Mondi but more broadly throughout the country. They are really helping us diversify our timber supply into the production of paper. They are increasingly playing a huge part in South Africa's forestry industry. They are also a way in which we're making sure that we're inclusive and we're working very closely with our communities. I think what we're most proud of, though, is the responsible forestry practices that we're seeing from our small timber growers. Increasingly, we're seeing a lot of them being now FSC certified. And of the 200,000 or so tons of timber that we are getting from small growers, quite a substantial amount of that is already FSC accredited, which means that these small growers that that own plantations between about 1 and 30 tons are practicing some of the best forestry practices there are out there, and are now certified by an official body.
So I would suspect that education plays a very major role when it comes to the small-scale producers, and that's where you guys come in as one of the major guys in the forestry industry. What kind of training is there that you help these guys out with, making sure that they also deliver a product that you guys can utilize?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question, Dupi. Remembering that, it is quite a complex industry, and as I said, a long-term game. So we partner very closely with our communities, and we offer them training. We also expose them to where their products will be going. So we open our mill for them to come and have mill visits. We also have field days. But I think the most important part, aside from the technical, the financial, and the mentorship support that we offer them, is that we offer them Dupi secure markets. So when you have a product and you know that you've got a pathway and a guaranteed buyer for your product, I think that gives you a lot of assurance and really, really motivates you, to produce the best product that you can. And then to make sure, that you are delivering on the promises and the quality and the certifications that are required.
So while we're on the topic of education, can you explain the main goals of the Mondi Suid-Afrika small-scale timber grower program that you guys initiated?
Yeah, so Mondi Suid-Afrika is a development arm of Mondi Suid-Afrika. They do excellent work. I mean, they were launched in 2007 and have got some numbers that we can really, really be proud of. Specifically under the small growers program, they've supported well over 3,800 small growers. And when you think about that, that's 3,800 families. And as I said, on an annual basis, these small growers deliver about 200,000 tons to our Mondi Richards Bay mill. I think what we can also be proud of when it comes to Mondi Suid-Afrika, is that they are building sustainable partners for our business for the long term. So they really, as Mondi Suid-Afrika, believe in teaching people how to fish and really helping them establish small businesses that will supply us as Mondi and the wider industry for many, many years to come. So really what we invest in our small growers is technical support. We give them business training. We also give them financial support where required and some mentoring. Also for us, what's quite important in this long road that we walk with our small growers in the forestry industry is making sure that the quality of the seedlings, which ultimately determines the quality of the plant that they are able to grow, and then the timber that we'll be using in our mills is world class. So we supply all of our small growers with seedlings that they actually put into the ground, and then finally becomes the plant that they would harvest and then send through to our Richards Bay mill. As I said, I think it's quite important at the very end, Dupi, that people have some security around the markets in which they'll serve, and I think we give them that. So at the beginning of this journey, very, very well that there is a customer, that's going to be buying the product that you are producing.
So Sandile, just before the break, we were still talking about education and obviously your Mondi Suid-Afrika project. But how many small-scale growers has the program supported since its launch?
Yeah, as I mentioned, Dupi, it's quite a big number. It's over 3,800 small growers, and it might sound it's a small number, but when you think about the fact that these 3,800 small growers are effectively 3,800 families, that for us is something that we're very proud of. In our value chain overall, Dupi, we're also quite proud that we support, north of 10,000 livelihoods.
Wow.
So at Mondi Suid-Afrika, and through our rotor trim product, we're quite proud of the local jobs, that we are creating, and that the livelihoods that we are protecting through our entire value chain.
I think specifically in the industry that you're in, when it comes to environmental conservation, that is a very hot topic. Now, South African forestry practices, balancing economic growth with those environmental conservation factors. How do you guys do that?
Yeah, I mean, so we take environmental conservation quite seriously at Mondi throughout our value chain, all the way from our forestry practices and the practices that we have within our mills that produce our products. But maybe just touching on forestry specifically, Dupi, I think what we're most proud of, are the certifications which speak to the practices that we have within our operations. I mean, a lot of people would be quite shocked if I said to them that 25%, so a quarter effectively, of the areas in which we operate in, we do not plant in. These are what we call conservation areas, and these are set aside for wetlands, for grasslands, for indigenous forests that we have in and around our operations. So we're quite proud that, it's not just Mondi saying this, but they are quite rigorous verifications that happen through our ISO processes, through FSC, and now this cradle-to-cradle certification, which ensures the circularity of the products that you have or that you're offering out into the market.
So maybe you can quickly run us through the FSC certification program. How much certified timber was sourced in 2024?
So all of our timber as Mondi is FSC certified. Obviously, in the 200,000 tons that we're getting from our small growers, they're on the journey of being FSC certified. So of the 200,000 tons, well over 60,000 tons of that was certified, and it's growing every day. And our target, really, Dupi, is to make sure that ultimately each and every single one of those small growers and every single one of those tons is FSC certified.
So when we talk about the local producers and small-scale guys, what kind of challenges does local forestry face in maintaining steady paper supply chains?
Yeah, Dupi, that is an interesting question for anybody running a business in South Africa, so and maybe anywhere around the world now with all the duties that we're seeing. But specifically in South Africa, I think obviously an industry like forestry does attract a lot of climate change impacts. Unfortunately for us, we also have to think a lot about pests and diseases, and this is where research for us is quite important. Also running a business in South Africa that logistically, for us, we've got operations in KZN and in Mpumalanga, as I said. Infrastructure challenges are obviously part of our everyday lives. We use a lot of the rail in South Africa and a lot of the ports, so working quite closely with government around ensuring efficiency there. And then the products that we sell, Dupi, also, are products that are traded globally. So depending on market demand, supply and demand, any new mills around the world coming online, our prices for our products fluctuates quite significantly.
Well, Sandile, that's all we have time for, unfortunately, this morning. Thank you so much. We really appreciate this. Sandile Ngcobo, Openbare Sake en Transformasie Direkteur by Mondi Suid-Afrika.